In this video, I'm gonna give you guys an updated and much asked and requested for comparison between two of the most, if not the most, popular resistance training devices that are fairly portable that either replace or mimic a cable-based setup or mechanism type machine. So I'm talking about the Beyond Power Voltra I and the ANCORE Pro. This is the one that goes up to 65 pounds. Having the privilege and opportunity to really review both these for a decent amount of time. In fact, in recent weeks, I've actually had these things kind of back to back with each other. I've had some other thoughts. You guys have submitted some questions as well that I want to incorporate in this video. One of which from one of you guys asked to see what the actual resistance really felt like throughout a given range of motion. So I got this crane scale and I'll show you guys that with the ANCORE and also the Beyond Power Voltra I. I will loosely compare it to other portable electronic devices I've covered a lot in the past. Even the Hive Gym, which I found out later on was kind of white labeled in other companies. I tried ordering another one off of Amazon that was the cheapest, but it's just been delayed in shipment. But I will give some comments a little bit on that throughout the video. Primarily those fill a void of more of a budget entry-level option to some of these things, because both these, while this is more expensive, they're both not necessarily cheap, which is for sure a pushback to both of these products. With that said though, guys, I'm gonna give you guys my honest thoughts as usual so you guys can make the best informed decision. And if you guys do want to help support me in the channel, there are promo codes and links down below in the description box for these products. All right, getting into some summary and comparison pros and cons between each device so that you guys can make the best decision possible. We'll first start off with just the rack mount, and I'm gonna try to not just make this a two reviews into one all over again. I'm really trying to kind of keep this whole thing into comparison between each other. First thing I'll just say, in the rack mounted position or the mounted position, the ANCORE Pro does come with this strap mount. You can bundle and get this mount here that Beyond Power makes. Both companies, I would say, I would invest in this. They are both partnered with this company, Darko Lifting, which I will link that down below. But I just think those mounts, based on what I'm seeing in their website, seem like the better option. The strap mount, while versatile and does kind of grab, it can have some play to it, especially if you're working around a cable like this. It was just kind of hard for me to really kind of strap this in. So there's a little bit of movement. I can easily kind of swing this up and down. That might just be me, but it is great to kind of throw on there. But if this was in a facility or in my home gym, also to kind of orient a little more, I wouldn't say you necessarily need it, but for sure, I would get one of those specialty kind of pin-loaded rack mounts. And with the Beyond Power mount, it is not bad, don't get me wrong, you can deal with it, but if you want to move it around a little faster and easier, I would probably say get something different. Something that is big, and I'm going to highlight here for sure for you guys, and you asked this to me, and this is something kind of a minor correction. Especially in my first review, I leaned heavily that this felt more like resistance bands, but kind of a cleaner version. It does still kind of feel like that, but the more I kept thinking about it and people are asking questions, I'm like, it's not really. And even on their website, they would say it's really consistent tension. And I kind of found that a little surprising given the fact that it is a spring-loaded mechanism, so technically it is variable resistance. It uses this internal spring torque cartridge system that, just like a spring, it'll wind tighter, which does increase resistance, but the cartridge, they say, is engineered to keep that increase minimal, so the resistance feels much closer to, say, a constant double stack type of load rather than a heavy elastic band. So you don't get that huge spike that you would, say, with bands, and also it's just much cleaner to then use, say, one or multiple bands, or not double up bands, so again, so you don't see a dramatic spike. This firefighter out there a year ago sent me a bunch of these crane scales, so happy I got to test this out. I went ahead and attached this so you guys can see it visibly to that spike and what that tension really is like with the ANCORE and also the Beyond Power Voltra. First, with the Beyond Power Voltra, I had it set at 65 pounds. And you're gonna see, that tension is kind of adjusting as you're going, but for the most part, it is fairly consistent around that 60, I think 61 was where it was at. As you're kind of pulling it out, and then as you're kind of slowing coming back down, it'll decrease that tension, slightly kind of going with that momentum there. And then when I put 65 pounds on here, and this is more kind of approximate with their little block system, how you kind of change things in and out, with the max, they say, you can see that the tension slowly kind of starts ramping up. It stays somewhat consistent around that 65 marker, but the more you stretch this out, then you start to get more of that variable resistance. So point is that as you start kind of pulling this, it's not going to be kind of as abrupt. You're more so feeling it, that constant tension right around this part. This isn't, you have some play initially to kind of work with, And then as you get further out, you actually get close to, it was like 80 or 90 pounds if you're way out there. So you can take that as you will, but that is more or less what the tension looks like, at least with all the weight kind of stacked fully. And then for the sake of just showing you guys a comparison, I did strap just a 41-inch kind of moderate tension Series Steel blue band on here, and you guys can see that kind of spike in tension from a resistance band. Now, where this ANCORE Pro has a pro to it is especially in the athletic population, and that was primarily, I'll get to this later, where I think this thing really shines in a commercial-based facility. But if you're working with athletes like they are, you know, wanting to really advertise to, or at least definitely a portion of the demographic that they are aligned with, taking some weight off from roughly around 35-ish pounds. I think this is 5, so it's somewhere maybe possibly 40. But what's great about the ANCORE Pro, I say for athletes, is that it is very responsive. And this is gonna be the case for sure in a lot of electronic-based systems, which you do, inevitably, you'll notice this right away. You kind of have to go with the tension and flow. And I think I've said this on past videos, and this is definitely true with the Voltra. I do like that electronic kind of consistent tension and flow. Even going back to like my Speediest Gym Monster, which is still in my basement, I think those things give off a unique tension. So with that said, if you like more dynamic, faster stuff, that's something you're gonna program into your workouts. Of course, you're an athlete, they might be doing some more of that stuff for a variety of exercises. That ANCORE Pro is gonna work out. But if I go over here to the Voltra, and I'll set this to roughly around 40 pounds on this one, of course, that is the great thing. You can quickly adjust the weight. Somewhat similar to that, but this is obviously much faster. Right now I have this set on their chains mode, which is kind of like resistance bands. I think it gets a little bit more responsive than just the raw weight, but I do just want to show you that, yes, I can kind of rip into it kind of fast. Takes a second to kind of adjust that setting in the first rep, but as I do this, there's like a little kind of second delay. It is still for sure fast enough. You definitely see athletes doing explosive movements forward and back, and there might be a setting in here I am missing. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, this is just, because it's not electronic, it is just gonna be a little bit more faster of a response time, just doing some explosive movements, that's all I'm saying. Now, the big thing they also will say in their defense is that while it is only capped at 65 pounds, some people think that's enough, some people think it's not enough. They're saying it is enough based on, say, single joint movements, lateral raises, bicep curls, tricep extensions with one arm. I don't know about you though, guys, unless we're talking about some of those things that maybe, they still feel good to do, don't get me wrong, and even single arm lat pulls, single arm chest presses. I tend to like to do stuff with a barbell, and this is actually the Beyond Power bar, which in and of itself is actually a really great accessory. Actually, one of the most used little mini barbells I use is this thing because it is so light. For some reason, I kind of like that. But in this position, this is still, I'm not saying this is light being 65 pounds, but for some people, for sure, for tricep extensions, bicep curls, I do a lot of bicep curls in the foot plate, you'll get to that. Does feel good, but not gonna lie, it would be nice if I had maybe at least 10, maybe 20 pounds more for doing some of those exercises. Lat pulls, of course, are gonna be limiting factors. So point is, it's good if you're just gonna be doing single arm stuff as far as that max weight for most people. Conversely, Beyond Power Voltra, we can definitely crank up that weight up to 200 pounds for all those exercises I just said, say with the barbell. And it does have, I'd say, another thing going for it, aside from the versatility part, if you want to use it in some, you know, roundabout versatile way. I honestly don't stick to a lot of the kind of convoluted stuff, me personally, but there are some very great exercises, such as the squat harness, belt squat, which you'll probably see and have seen in previous videos, but you'll see it here for sure. I do this a lot, did it the other day with my legs, even been doing calf raises with the harness. So there are some unique things, even if you have a cable machine, that a Voltra actually does some things uniquely because of the center pull, the tension, and the many various functions that you can actually do with it. Yes, there is the argument this is electronic. These batteries will fail eventually, no matter how great the thing is performing now in the near future. But with the ANCORE Pro, you have things that are spring-loaded. We don't know how long this will last. The warranty is relatively good for sure. It's a year, I think, on this portion, and I think 2 years on these little blocks out to the side. So warranty and all that stuff longevity-wise, I would say this wins out, especially just, I would assume, wear and tear in a gym, like a commercial gym and just like athletic setting. For sure this would win out, but you still have some parts here that might over time wear out and you got to replace. All right, then if we are talking foot plates, this, as I've said before, for me is what I like and use the Beyond Power Voltra the most, because I just don't have a whole lot of a need, and I've said this before in other videos, to utilize the Voltra as a cable kind of setup. So oftentimes I will go ahead and use the foot plate for many things, and I can hear people saying, well, it's not worth $2,000+ for a glorified, bicep curl station. But I will say it is one of my favorite bicep curl exercises, no question. Not to mention you can do the eccentric, you can do chains mode, a lot of just good feeling exercises you can do here. Other times I will do things like shoulder presses, frontal raises. The squat harness, like I said on here, is one of my favorite leg exercises to do with the Beyond Power Voltra. Portability thing is also pretty good if you wanted to say bring this outside or whatever, but I think that's going to be few and far between for most people. And then transitioning over here to the, which is not one of their official foot plates. I will link this one down below. I think I had a shorts video about this. You can go ahead and use this strap mount on here and go ahead and attach it down below on this board here. The only downside with this is one, of course, this board is expensive. There's a cheaper wooden one on Amazon that you could pick up that I can also drop down in the description box. I actually did review that a while back. So it is not perfect, it does work. And this was one of my arguments with the ANCORE Pro. I know they're gonna make one again. I think they did make one. They said that people weren't buying it, so maybe, hopefully I've changed some public opinion on this. But I really do like the ANCORE Pro for using a foot plate because of the same reasons of the Voltra. I think the bicep curl in here feels great. I didn't lock it in enough right there, so there's some slack there, but the bicep curl feels great. It feels a lot like my favorite stuff to do with a foot plate and a barbell, resistance band barbell. And just for the sake of ease, I end up using one of these two devices lately, just because it's so easy to kind of take the weight on and off. But I will tell you that whenever I use the ANCORE Pro, there are many times, say for overhead presses, even bicep curls. Of course, downside too is you can do squats in here too that are pretty good. Kind of like a front squat like this that feels pretty good. But downside is things like rows, deadlifts, you don't have a whole lot of tension out of the gates the way this is kind of configured and designed. Squat harness is also kind of worthless on here too because the resistance again is pretty light for using it for a leg device. So summary thoughts between these two devices. I still pretty much stand by the idea or notion that if you already have a cable machine, I don't think these things are really worth it, but then I assume you might not be in the ballpark for this, with the exception of, yes, there are some versatile things you can kind of rig. Beyond Power Voltra being the winner in that regard, because as you guys have probably seen, there are many ways you can configure and rig things, but for the most part for me, there's not a whole lot of purpose. I find even on unique machines like a quantum free trainer, I'm really only using this thing that's unique for me really on the foot plate. And I can see for a lot of people, they are not gonna see the value of $2,000+ for a foot plate. It for sure has that cool factor. I keep saying if you got the money to drop, it is up there. It's something that is very novel and unique because of the various functions and features of stuff you can pull off. But I will also say there are unique things that just feel good, even though I have other things at my disposal. This just being a path least resistance. I love that squat harness version 4 squat with that just feels great. Like I said, even just doing things like calf raises was easy. Just kind of rig my calf block on here and do calf raises on here. Found myself doing that more so than rigging up the weight. So I do know there are people out there that just for the sake of dialing weight up and down and the ease of doing that, you could configure and make the case of why you'd want one of these, if budget isn't, of course, a concern and longevity, whatever, over, say, traditional barbells and racks of that nature. When it comes into the ANCORE Pro, I think this wins out predominantly if you want to spend a little bit less, of course, but then if you are wanting to spend a little less, you have to, again, weigh why you're doing that. I assume for portability's sake, because when you get to around $600-ish for this package, they do have already budget option cable stack machines or high and low pulley setups that are into, I think I've reviewed something like in the $150 range. So that is an option too. If you want to go ahead and get two of these to kind of rig two pulley configurations on your squat rack, again, the argument might be, well, why not just go ahead and get a all-in-one trainer almost for the same amount of price, if not maybe lower than that on some things that are out there. But the pushback for that person might just be they like the compact nature, they like the idea it's not gonna take a lot of space. If they're moving, they can take these things on and off, and you could go ahead and rig something like this foot plate setup, make it a little bit versatile, and that argument would go probably for the Beyond Power Voltra as well. Where the ANCORE Pro really stands out, because I will say, I think all things considered, if budget is an option, Beyond Power Voltra 1 is more versatile, there's more functions, more features. It is just a better machine, there's no question, but you, of course, are paying for that. Where the ANCORE Pro, I think, stands out, even amongst, say, the pushback, say, with resistance bands or something like that, really is in what you see on their website with athletes or in a facility. Because if you're going to train a lot of people in one space, logistically, one of the main reasons you see squat racks, barbells, and dumbbells, more so squat racks, barbells, and plates, is because you can train a lot of people at one little station. There's not dumbbells all over the place, there's not machines all over the place. And now I believe ANCORE Pro found a great solution where now you can kind of rig something relatively simple to a squat rack, and they can kind of go back to their station-based approach, do some of that cable work, especially the fact that it's not electronic, you don't have to charge it. Fairly, rugged in its design. Granted, these blocks might get lost and or stolen. I don't think anyone's going to steal unless you stole the unit, which you could steal the unit for sure. But also that you can do a lot more dynamic work, faster explosive work than you would when you would do, at least with the current generation of a lot of these electronic devices that are out there. But I can understand for a lot of people out there, this is still above what people would like to spend for the functionality and practicality of what this does versus, say, just going ahead and buying a cable setup. Because most of the stuff, like I said, you can do in here, you can do with a cable setup, no question. I do hope that ANCORE does improve its versatility with the various mount setups, and they make a new, just more versatile foot plate. I think there's still a lot of opportunities they can do with that I would definitely be jumping all over. I wish you could add a couple more add-on blocks with this kind of stock, or with this more stock initial setup. I think that would be great too. Otherwise, I think the ANCORE is still a great product. I think its customer service is also second to none. Didn't mention that from what I heard. Being a small US independent-based factory. But Beyond Power Voltra, there's a reason why it has a hype train behind it. It is cool, but I still stand by its practical use for most people just might not be there. So any questions, comments, thoughts, anything else you guys want to see in the future with these, be happy to fill you guys in on them. They are two products I like. They're two products I'm holding on to because I keep messing around and finding new things with them. I will see you guys in the next video.